Alaikum. In the name of Allah and His servant, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm so sorry my time got messed up the way that it did, because here's what I wanted to do. And you'll have to somewhat inform me, just in a general way and kind of informally, on a couple of points so I can get a sense of what has happened before I got here. But what I intended was that Brother Gregory opened the meeting in prayer. And in like one sentence, give it to me, and one or two sentences, I was then going to say, let's, turn on the video. And I knew some of you were going to come in late. Some of us, it's like it's an article of faith, like it's part of your religion. You're just supposed to be late. And I wanted to catch you late because there's something about that plane that you don't want to be late about. Now, that's one of the best that Whitey has ever shown. And what makes it that is, you may not know who Hynek is, that man Hynek, for example. But I'm going to get for you, you recall the book I waved at you just before we went overseas a few weeks ago? Major Kehoe's book, the one that, as I told you, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote publicly in 1962. Can you hear me? In 1962, that Master Farad Muhammad forced this man to write that book. Now, when you read the book, I mean, it's written back, 24 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. It is absolutely overwhelming. The accumulation of evidence it blows your mind. There's absolutely no doubt that the United States government is involved in a cover-up that makes what Nixon did look like a little boy playing with a thimble covering up an ant. The government is absolutely involved in a cover-up. They know all about that plane. They know by now that it's absolutely nothing that came from Mars. Russia and America both know that neither of them built it. And they know that the nations over whom they have power did not build it. Now, a couple of comments about the plane before I get into a couple of comments, and then this short meeting will end. I hope that you pick up this on your way out for 10 cents, just to help defray a few expenses. This is just a sheet of paper, but on it, it's one of the articles that I wrote I wrote in advance, 3 articles before we left. And I wrote all about the UFO, quoting heavily from Major Kehoe's book. I mentioned, not necessarily in this piece, but in one of the other articles, I mentioned the fact that $150 million in gold was put up. I just did not mention in the article that it came from certain people in Mecca, Arabia. That's where the heavy financing of this plane came from. And certain parts were made by made in certain factories around different places or parts of the earth without the manufacturers knowing exactly what they were manufacturing or where that part was going. And it was secretly assembled on one of the islands on what's called Nippon, which is Japan. No, this is not something that white folks have any say-so over or power over. None. And now the plane is independent of the white man, independently flying. White folks don't have nothing to do with it. It scares them to hell. White people are more alert. They have meetings all the time, all over America, about subjects they consider important to themselves. We Muslims in Phoenix, when the circle was just getting started, I paid him, $100, a white man, to conduct a seminar. It took about 3 hours long. And he was so surprised because he just didn't expect to walk into a room on campus and all 41 or 2 of us were black. He didn't know what kind of organization it was to which he was going to present this information. But he presented very solid information that absolutely, overwhelms the mind. that in fact such planes exist. White people who have gone to the moon and back have photographed it. In some instances, transmissions that have come from them were not, turned off. How they do it, like you turn on or off mics or whatever. And some of the public in America heard them talking about it. Heard them transmitting the information to the people in Houston. But do you know, look, let me say it like this. Did you know that the white people has various ways of so fixing people's minds that you can look right at reality and not see it? When I was in the penitentiary for not fighting for the United States government, in this state, by the way, I was one day online with a brother who I was trying to drop a few words of Islam on. We were becoming kind of friendly to each other. And at one point, I was talking about pork, how I didn't want it on my plate. I wouldn't even touch it. What effect it had on the mind. And in the course of saying what I was saying, it triggered something in his mind. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I have an uncle, he gave me his uncle's name, who works for the government, who got fired from his job recently because he began to get knowledge of how in some of the major cities, including this one, the government has authorized secretly chemicals to be put in the water that makes the mind easy to accept suggestions. And one of the main tools they use to convey suggestions, the TV. I was on George Putnam's radio show earlier today for 50 minutes. I deliberately made suggestions. I played with some of my listeners, no, I shouldn't say played, worked with some of my listeners' imagination. At one point, with total honesty, but I just did not want to go into it. I raised the question, what are the Jews trying to hide? These rabbis are highly intelligent people. They know whether or not Minister Farrakhan is a bigot and teaching hate, but they repeat the same words over and over and over again. When you have to resort to obvious lies to get your point over, then you're telling any halfway sharp-minded person that you're running a game. They never try to prove anything, like Brother William called Ray Bream last night. Said, you call Minister Farrakhan a bigot, you call him this, that, and the other, but you don't call him a liar. That shot that white man down. His conversation went bent. If you're telling the truth, you can explain it. When you tell a lie, you're forced to repeat it, because you can never explain a lie. A lie has no explanatory power. When you explain truth to the mind of one who wants to know it, energy is released in that person's mind. If they want to know the truth of something, and you properly explain it, energy is released in that person's mind. If you have a lie, and they find out you have a lie, something else happens in their mind, in their attitude toward you. You follow me? In the subject about which you're telling a lie. So the Jews are involved in the big lie. And they're not successful. And it's messing with their head. As Putnam said, I don't know whether this statement of his was on or off the air, because some of our conversation was off the air. He was talking about the great fear of the Jews. He said he, in words, could see into all of this fear. Now, why should the entire Jewish community all over America fear Farrakhan? If he's the head of a bunch of crackpots and dummies, a bunch of zombies who can't think, then why are they so insecure with respect to this man? There's a relationship between certain kinds of fear and insecurity. Sister, when you're pregnant, 7 months, your husband then loses his job. You get what? Insecure. And you then become what? Fearful. Of what? That there'll be no more money to get you in and out of that hospital. Maybe you can't eat and feed the other babies. You get fearful, insecure, messed up. We all know what fear is. What are white people afraid of? I kept suggesting that there's something they're hiding. On two levels. One, when you're dishonest, you're hiding something. They are dishonest with respect to Minister Farrakhan. That's easily demonstrated. Like one of them said, Gaddafi, pulling the strings. Mr. Farrakhan's paying the mortgage note. I said, that's simply a statement that he made. It's not true. I don't have to explain that man's lie. That's a straight-out lie. You know, that's just something he said. Prove it. Okay? He can't prove it. But look at this. So once, and I'm not dealing extensively with that, once you dismiss the superficial part, you know, you can't prove the minister is a bigot. We haven't talked, I mean, some of you have been around like myself 25, 30 years in the Nation of Islam or more. We didn't talk about Jews. It wasn't until they threatened the life of Jesse, and then they started lying on the minister. And then we've had pop, 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 pop. Back and forth. But the way they're presenting it is that Mr. Farrakhan is just running around the country chasing them. They're leaving out their part. You know? Like they haven't done nothing. So it's been back and forth with them losing ground. They couldn't stop the 11,000 blacks from coming in Washington, D.C. behind handbills and posters in Washington, D.C. A couple of months before that, we filled the John F. Kennedy Center with word of mouth. We couldn't put out, listen at this, May 1st, we couldn't put no advertising out. It's against their policy. Word of mouth. And we did it on 3 days or 4 days notice. That's power. That shows a tremendous interest in brother. And these people are not lunatics. As Putnam, who I could see don't like Jews, he deliberately quoted. He could have picked some other quotes, but he picked one quote that talked about the kind of automobiles that were outside the forum, and that it ran the gamut, so to speak, of black folks economically. I guess everything from Roses or Benzes to Toyotas. I'm paraphrasing here. The point being that these black folks who were there are not a bunch of dummies, and you don't measure our smartness by the length of the car that we drive. That got nothing to do with it. There's a lot of super brilliant brothers and sisters that ain't got no ride, or just got your ride repossessed. You're brilliant, but not in every respect, but brilliant in some respects. Not brilliant enough to hold on to that ride. And this state is one of, in terms of levels of education, well, I know it was, it may still be, the highest ranking in the country. So, no. Let me touch a few other things here right quick on this list. Now, the brother Wally mentioned the fact that we were able to pay off Chicago, $16,000 some odd dollars. Did he tell you that? Well, that's what I saw it last night. $16,000, I think it was $280 that was borrowed from Chicago, because the budget was about $85,000. We were short. Chicago loaned us the money. National Headquarters loaned the money, paid it off. And the $13,000 that you all, or some of you loaned, paid off. Some of the people had to kind of blasé about their money. Wally had called. I said, brother, don't wait till tomorrow. And I called them up now. Tell them come get their money. Some just took their good time about coming in and picking up their money. And I understand Brother Torrance has donated his money right on back. Now, was all that covered? Huh? It wasn't covered. Did everybody get their money? Did anybody say they didn't get their money? Did anybody not show up for their money? Wow, that's deep. Now look, you measure the success or failure of any effort by the purpose of whoever initiates that effort. Okay? If your stated goal is to run the 100-yard dash in 25 seconds, that's your goal. And everybody else does it in 10. Well, you may have lost the race, but you've accomplished your objective if you got there within 25 seconds. So you got to measure that man's performance by what was his objective, okay? What was his purpose? Now, we talked about doing this. A few of us were together last night talking about or evaluating what was done, and a few of us were also talking about the next step, which is, of course, push this tape. A lot of our people want the tape. And again, on George Putnam's show, I did get a chance to mention whether listening public, or at least that program, could call in and get the tape, and I hope that we don't have any, pardon the expression, dummies on that phone. You don't like that, huh? But if we have a fool on the phone, then we all look like fools. So please, if you don't know how to answer the phone, give it up. Let another brother or sister who knows how to answer the phone, answer the phone. Some of us have not gotten out of our rudeness yet. You say, hello, what you want? You don't do that. Public is calling in, say they want to spend their money. Over at the park, what's the hotel we were in? The people are really intelligent. I mean, they really make you feel good on the phone. You say, wow, look at this. This highly intelligent. I told Brother Malik, we need to get their manual. Because I've never been in a hotel where the people you deal with on the phone were as intelligent as those people. And I've been living in hotels for 30 years in and out now. Never have I experienced that kind of intelligence in handling people on phones. Now, so we can't have nobody who's ignorant. Or maybe they may be smart, but they're just dumb when it comes to phone etiquette. And if we can find nobody to answer the phone, maybe somebody can volunteer. And if nobody can volunteer, then we got to put our dimes together and hire somebody. You understand what I'm saying? But you can't have no dummies on that phone. Now, since I'm the brother that said, let's go do the forum, some of y'all said, let's do the what? And I told you we had 4 or 5 purposes, right? One of which was to pull everybody out so that you wouldn't have to use a microscope, not to think over a magnifying glass to see folks. We want to see friends and foes. You have to have a big goal, something like the forum, in order to pull more out of yourself. Plus, as you know, in a very righteous fashion, I've worked to reduce our number. To reduce the number, to make the number fat. So you had a smaller number than you've had working on many of these big projects, yet you got this is the most successful affair or event we've ever put on, at least since I've been coming in out of here since 1958. Tell me I'm lying. You can't say you don't feel good about yourself, because you worked hard, and of course there are others. I don't know who all did what, but I do know that when Friday night, I do want you to give due recognition to what everybody did to make this a success. And there were even some who came from outside of the city. There were 75 brothers and sisters who came from Phoenix alone. I don't know how many came from Houston or other places. I just don't know, because I was bogged down with the part that I had to do, and I just don't know. I don't have a full picture of everything. But look at this. You consider the speech. Let's say you used to use the word crowd, money, whether you come out broke or not. And then there's a 4th area, which is a big intangible, which I'll just call how the circle emerges through the event. That's one way I put it. Now, the speech was destined to be a success. Minister Farrakhan just don't know how to give bad speeches. He just don't do it. I've been knowing that brother 30 years. 30 years. Some of you are not 30 years old in this room. I just don't know of when that man. Now, I've heard him say, man, I just wasn't on it tonight. I said, don't nobody know that but you and God. You know what I mean? He just gives up speeches that are on it all the time. That was a magnificent speech. Some people got burnt. But if you look at the entire situation, I mean, look, man, don't say, Farrakhan, you just talk about money. Who the hell are you to tell us that? You didn't start us. You don't feed us. We're not boys or girls. You don't own us. You don't tell us what to say. That's crazy. The press printed the fact that some Negroes said, Farrakhan say that. But they didn't print what the representatives of Minister Farrakhan said later. That part wasn't printed. You follow me? Now, the speech was a tremendous success. Yes, some people got burnt. But that's because they put themselves in the wrong position. There was no way for this thing to go down when the Jews got started without somebody getting burnt. The mayor got burnt. That was his fault. Now look, that's our brother, but our brother acted on the base of expediency. When you act on the base of principle, later for what people think, a principle now that you understand and that's timely, you act on it, you forget about the consequences. Our brother didn't do like he should have done. He acted on the base of expediency. expediency. Not what is meet and proper, but there were other considerations in there. Now, all those other brothers and sisters, we're brothers and sisters now. We're all part of the same family. They were trying to do a dance. As one brother said, walk on a razor's edge. That's very hard to do. And you know, the bad part about it is so many of these brothers and sisters depend on white people for money. Jews in particular. And that's difficult. You know, you got to meet this mortgage. Now remember, there are some black brothers and sisters we have learned of who the Jews are now making it hard for in Hollywood. There's a couple of brothers that said they don't give us so-and-so. Said it to the white man's face. One brother told us, I can say this because he said it. You know, I'm not going to give his name up. It's not necessary. But he and the Jewish man he was doing business with were in the same room. The minister comes across the TV. The Jew downs the minister. Then he turns to the brother. What do you think? In words. The brother said, no, he said, did you know him? The brother said, yes. What do you think of him? I think he's terrific. You know how, you ever see, Jews especially do that. You go into a Jewish neighborhood and they're like that, a little bit more than the average white. If they catch you looking at them, they go, you ever notice? Come on now, you've seen it lots of times. It's a very funny look that gives you the feeling that this chap was thinking something crazy about me. You know what I mean? It makes you think like that. It makes you wonder what's going on in his mind. It does make you wonder that. Now, I'm sorry. Another reason Mayor Bradley got burnt. We sent him tapes all last year, didn't we? He's a busy man. I can respect that. But he's no more busy in a sense than the mayor in San Diego or the governor of the state of Arizona, both of whom took time out to write me a letter saying thank you for the tapes that I gave them about Minister Farrakhan. It opened their eyes up to a few things. You know, can you dig that? Now, I know the governor of the state of Arizona, it's only about a few million people compared to this big city. But Mayor Bradley owed it to himself. And he had plenty of time because we sent him tapes. He had plenty of opportunity to understand the context in which this whole Jewish Farrakhan thing has taken place. Therefore, the mayor deserved what he got. He got caught between a rock and a hard place. A rock, meaning the minister, in several hard places. That's his problem. He has to figure that out the best way he can. He was advised by some of his advisors, do not, for God's sake, condemn Farrakhan. Find some way to do it, but don't condemn it. The black leadership is now divided. Is that healthy? I tell you, yes, it's healthy. It's better to get separated from that which is no good. You have a rotten situation throughout America when it comes to black folks. Our condition is not accidental, and it does not continue the way it is, accidentally. You know, some whites were saying on the Ray Bream show, well, you know, those people who don't like America and blah, 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 should get out. One white man called in from the South, I forget what part, it said in effect, you know, you have to have some money to get out of here. Then you got to be welcome in some other country. Our situation, brothers and sisters, is regardless of how smart we get, we're in a trap. And really, there's nothing that has ever come to us except this teaching that has let our minds go beyond the net or the trap that white people have our people's minds in. And unless black men and black women can begin to think independent of what the white man thinks and feels, then you're still under the white man's thumb. You're still a slave. As I said earlier today on this man's program, that, you know, and he looked genuinely surprised. These Jews in this town did by the black leadership here just like they did by Marion Berry. They came to the black leadership here in town with a written out statement and asked these brothers and sisters to sign it. That tells you what they thought of these people all along. I wish I had thought to say that. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to get persuaded to come on another one of these shows. And if I do, then I'll try to remember to say that. That showed all along. They say, well, this is paternalism. Paternalism is just another word. What does paternal mean? It implies father, parents. It's just another word that says that the person who is being paternalistic has somewhat of the slave master's mentality. and regards you as somewhat of a slave. That's all. That's all it boils down to, doesn't it? Now, brothers and sisters, I said deliberately over and over again, about 3 or 4 times, the Jews are hiding something. The Jews are hiding something. Part of what the wise Jews are hiding is what you saw in that video. The Jews know what time it is. The learned Jews know it is the end of their time, and a word being preached saying blacks are the chosen. Think for a moment. If, in fact, that is true, that means we're going to become the leaders of the world. That's what that means. Who are the leaders now? You throw a rock, that's the one that got hit. Nobody else has gotten so excited on earth about the idea of blacks being chosen but the Jews. Now, why are they so upset? It's because they, in the public's mind, the world's mind, occupies that position. So if we begin to get the idea, I wonder if that's true. I wonder if Muhammad is right. And you begin to research it, and you find out that it's true, then you begin to act a little different. Your perspective gets different. You begin to look at Jews differently, automatically. A lot of our people think that Jews have a right to Palestine, even though they know that the Jews robbed the land. They know what they did, but they put another face on the thing because of what they think. You know, when you love someone, you don't see their deeds. They say love is blind. That's jive. Infatuation is blind. Love is not blind. You heard that? Because you don't love beyond your vision or beyond what you see. If you see nothing, then you love not. Correct? Can you love somebody you do not know at all? There's somebody right now in Peking that just fell off a bike and they broke their leg. Are you affected by that? You don't know nothing about Peking. You just know it's some way over there. Right? You didn't feel nothing when I said that, did you? Do you see what I'm getting at? Now what I'm saying, sisters and brothers, look kind of deep into these words. The Jews are very keen about what they do. The cover is being pulled off from them. Let's go a little bit into what they're hiding now. 8 years ago in this city, almost to the day, a few days ago, Minister Farrakhan read a book about the teachings of the Elijah Muhammad on the subject of Jesus, and it refreshed his memory. This I'm going to put it very simply, refreshing of his mind and even deepening his perception about Jesus and the implications of the truth of Jesus fired him out of the box like a tremendous jet or cannon, correct? It did. Now, over in Mecca and in Medina, we were involved in scholarly dissertation with Muslim scholars about Jesus. I brought with me a man named Maududi's book, because I brought this with me for tonight. I intended on going back to Phoenix and then coming back here, but I haven't left town yet. Now, I brought this with me overseas because I wanted to know the scholar's attitude toward this particular man because of certain other things that he has said. And I heard that he's a world-renowned scholar, but I don't know everything from the point of view of those people overseas. And I wanted to see how the people right in Mecca saw Maududi. I learned that they had great respect for him. The top scholar over there, the man who's given the greatest respect, according to what I heard, is an old blind man, but he's extraordinarily keen, named Ibn Baz. Something like Baz. Something like B-A-Z. I wanted to know his view of Maududi, and I learned that he had not only great respect, but he issued this man's translation and commentary. I said, oh. Then I asked some more people, well, what do you all think, what do the top scholars think about the 21 groupings of sayings by Muhammad ibn Abdullah about the return of Jesus at the end of the world? Now, over in Medina, not far from Muhammad ibn Abdullah's grave, his tomb, there is an unoccupied grave. Now, I mentioned some of this in the, have you read the current final call yet? Huh? You ought to get it. Among other things in the paper is an article that I wrote. Part of the article deals with the fact that the Pope recently asked some black Africans to forgive white Christians for what they did. I begin to touch the Pope up a little bit. He probably never will read it, but one of the questions I ask is, will he ever come over here to America and ask us to forgive? And can there be forgiveness without there first being repentance? And if whites have repented, what form has that repentance taken? I wish that you'd read the article. Then there's something else in there by a man named Shapiro, a retired military man who threatened Minister Farrakhan's life. I particularly ran his whole article because I intend on capping on him, finishing him off next article. He's a retired military man, and I intend on saying to him, your whole military is retired. You can't do nothing like you think you're going to be able to do. Let me tell you something. Some of these little planes that are run by black men eased up beside an Argentina jetliner carrying 40 newsmen about 4 or 5 weeks ago, traveling back to Buenos Aires. It came across some of the news, but the white people, when they don't want you to see certain things, they slide it off to a side paper like the Enquirer, I think it's called. But they had it on the news, the early morning news, and they try to bury it and hide it after that. I want to hope to help you to see, not maybe so much in this meeting, but in subsequent meetings and in the material that I've already handed out in Phoenix, because we are Xeroxing that white man's book. He can sue me if he wants to, but I'm Xeroxing the entire book and giving it out. People can, and that book is 20-some years old. My Lord, what have they learned since that time? Well, Hynek is an example. Hynek at that time, 20-some years ago, was with the government on Project Blue Book. Since that time, he's quit. He's, as you saw him on the video, on the TV, he's convinced that the government is lying. Incidentally, some very, very wealthy whites have bought 40 or 50-some acres, about 40 or 50 miles outside of Phoenix, Arizona, to set up a gigantic observatory. The white people are really trying to deal with this thing as best they can, independent of the government, because they know the government is lying. But the government is afraid, scared, that the white public is going to panic. So they're running all kind of games to keep the people just mellowed out as best they can, because this is something that the government can't deal with at all. Now these planes hovered up alongside this jet and just stood still. And stopped. Kept up, did this, did little dances, 5 or 6 of them. Shook up the powder, blew his mind. And there were 40 newsmen on this because they had just come from a soccer game. They were on their way to Buenos Aires. One man said he wouldn't have believed it had he not taken pictures, that he wouldn't even believe with his own eyes what he saw, were it not for the fact that his pictures came out. Thank you. Yes. Think on this now. What is this about? I mean, the planes exist or they don't. There's no half-stepping about that. You follow what I'm saying? They know they exist. Well, what does that represent? When God was striking Pharaoh, if I remember correctly, after the first 4 plagues, Pharaoh did not see a connection between the plagues and Moses. But around the 5th or 6th, he began to see a profound interconnection between the two. The butt whooping he was getting connected with what he saw coming out of that man's mouth. In his mind, he made the right connection. Are you hearing what I'm saying? All praise is due to Allah. So these reporters made this report. It was reported on at least one station. It was heard in Phoenix, Arizona. It probably was heard around the country, but early in the morning. This is an awesome thing. Though there are wise white people who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has told us are paid some of our tax dollars just to study the problem of prophecy. There's some CIA men, very sharp, who are paid to study the problem. Why is it a problem? The problem for them is how to get around it. When you are very arrogant, you'll try to get around God. There are white people on earth who are humbled by it. But there are others who say, no, we got to get around this, because this means death. It ain't about, well, maybe if we submit ourselves and get real humble, maybe we'll get some kind of action. Some of them are saying, hell no, let's just do this. this to the max. We live or die. And they're trying to figure how to get around this. And God let something happen 10 years ago to throw their minds off. And now the thing is back full force. Now, I would like to make this comment. In a sense, yes, we're going back through a lot of what Jesus went through, Jesus' history, through Minister Farrakhan, through Raja Muhammad, but we're also going through Paul. It's like a spiral. Remember, the nation's not going to fall again. Some things we'll make it. Maybe skirt or get singed, but we're going to make it. Not fall mean, it don't mean your knee might not buckle, but it'll mean there's no fall coming. Fall mean you go to one knee, right? Or two knees, or on your back. Now we're going, look, I want you to see it, something like an evolution, something like a spiral. It looks like, if you look down the spiral, some spirals, it may look the same. You follow me? The same circle. But if you look at it from another vantage point, it's like this. It makes progress forward. And that's exactly what we're going through now. Now, in those 20-some sayings, and there are many others written by different scholars, but in Maududi's book anyway, if you read the words, some of it is very symbolic. The killing of the swine, the breaking of the cross. They were asked overseas. I asked some of those scholars whether or not they agreed, or what did they think the breaking of the cross meant. They gave their opinion. One of them I asked, who is the greatest upholder of the cross? He said, well, of course, it's America, and that, of course, is known throughout the earth. But now you have in the sayings of Muhammad, some of them, the wording looks like the Jesus took care of a lot of business on his return, mowed down Dajjal or the devil, but there were some that ran and got behind some stones and got behind some trees. And the trees and stones cried out to Jesus that there's a Jew behind me. Hide. So now as we go through what Minister Farrakhan has taken care of, the fellow who wasn't brought out before is being brought out now. And he's upset. He's upset because there's a mask or a covering being pulled off him. As Isaiah says, the bed is too narrow and the cover is too short. They are frauds, they're fakers, liars, pretenders. And the truth of them and the truth of us, or either way you go, the truth of us reveals them. The truth of them reveals us. Puts them in a position where they lose wealth, prestige, power, the adulation of the people as the chosen of God. All praise be to Allah. Now, one or two more points here, and then we'll want to acknowledge a few brothers. One brother I just saw that come in, Brother Collard. In fact, Brother Collard, come up and have a seat right now. I don't recognize a few of the other brothers. I don't know. Is Brother Edward still here? Is Brother Edward from Atlanta, Georgia still here? He made his flight then, I guess. Okay. Look at this, brothers and sisters. The presence of God automatically begins to create a circle. Did you know that? When God is present, automatically He impacts on people. There's no such thing. I'm saying this, I can't talk for the whole city just to us, and it's just a handful of us in this room. But you study over this deep enough. There's no such thing as it is possible to defeat God, the Supreme Being. Most people, many people, I wouldn't say most, many people who made that meeting may not have felt in the conscious sense the presence of God in that building, in the forum. Some did. But God was absolutely present there. We had the cooperation of Jews and the white press in general to aid. But Allah already anticipated that. He absolutely anticipated that. Now, what is the outcome? The speech, success. Financially, paid the bills, from what I'm told. Crowd, approaching 19,000. The circle emerges stronger, presumably. Nobody goes through any kind of an ordeal, and it was a bit, in a sense, an ordeal, or any kind of big experience, and you come out exactly the same. You come out better, or you come out worse. Presumably, we all came out better for the experience. Tighter, smarter, correct? And we should critique. You should spend Friday night critiquing, just like actors and actresses. They put on plays, and then the director, they go behind stage somewhere. Some of you who have had that experience, they make what they call notes. Notes. Don't they do that? Have any of you ever acted on stage? Raise your hand. Sister here, sister in the back, 2, 3, 4, 1 or 2 brothers. Haven't you experienced that called notes? Huh? Say it so the others will know that I'm not just making this up. I want you to get the point. What do? They criticize. Each one gets criticized. Now, the people out in the audience, they may not know what was a mistake, but all of you who were there, you go through it, and the reason for the critiquing that's done peace with God and everybody else. There's only one way to make peace with God. Submit. You can't advise him. You make peace with each other by what? The basic rule is what we call the golden rule. That's the basic, broad rule by which we make peace one with another. Now, with that as a broad base, which you already know that, and you're not a Muslim unless you love for your brother and sister what you love for yourself, how do you treat your visiting brother and sister? Do you go out of your way to meet and greet them? And if you go out of your way, what are you saying? Where is your way? Your way is the Muslim. It is in your way to be courteous, friendly, correct? If you have to go out of your way, then what are you telling us about your real self or how you perceive yourself? You ever hear a white man say, well, by God, Jim, I've gone out of my way for you? Meaning you become other than yourself to do something of good. Please, let's be careful how we use that kind of language, okay? How do you feel? Do you understand what it means to be the chosen?
I love you very much. And I sat and just looked around and walked around, and I stopped smiling after a while and just started grinning. Just watching you move and maneuver and operate on a city that needs an operation. There, among the close to 19,000, we saw many of the old followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad come back after a long, arduous journey into the wilderness and wildness of North America. As I made it back, as the minister himself made it back, as many of us made it back, we were able to see them come and begin to make the journey back to self, the journey back to Almighty God, Allah, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I didn't come to preach, didn't even know that I would say a word to you. But I am, again, happy and honored and joyful and at the same time sad to see you. Again, I have to say these things to you collectively. I don't get an opportunity individually. That no matter how dedicated and committed I am to standing closely with him on the national and international level, there's just no place like home. And we became family. We worked together from different homes, and we started there over Ralph's Market in Watts, meeting in the little community center over Ralph's Market in the Watts area. From there to different living rooms over on Lafayette Park Place in just a little small apartment living room. From there we moved about several places, and then to what's now the Pig Out, the Black Research and Topographical Center, just down the street. Reverend Reed, our good friend, opened up his church and allowed us to come into his gymnasium, and we met there. We went to the University Hilton, and we met there every Sunday. The Convention Center, we had major meetings there. And we went throughout the city. the Scottish Rite, the Shrine, the Bonaventure, and a whole host of other hotels, to the Stocker Plaza, and then by Allah's grace and by His permission and His divine providence, ultimately here to the present home of Temple number 27 on Crenshaw. So by Allah's grace, I saw most of you come. Some have come since I've been gone. But it's a wonderful, wonderful family and a good spirit developing here in Los Angeles and on the West Coast. And what we witnessed this weekend has far-reaching proportions that we haven't even begun to tap yet. The scripture, of course, in the Quran speaks of that hour and that time when the people will begin to come in companies, in great crowds. And so now, like a beacon light, Temple 27 sits on the hill here at Stocker and Crenshaw, with the crescent of Islam representing freedom, justice, and equality, turning, making revolutions on the corner of Crenshaw. And at night you can see it in all directions on Crenshaw. And it means, in my last few words to you, that you too are seen in the city of Los Angeles as a body that is turning, as a body that is on the move, making time as you move. You are now seen as a body that is a beacon light. And wherever anyone recognizes you, I'm sure you'll bear me witness on the streets. When they recognize you, they say, Asalaikuum. They try to get it out. They try to give you the greeting because you, all praise is due to Allah, represent to them hope. You represent a way out of despair. You represent a light after they have been in a world of darkness. For when Islam went down in this city, everything went down. So they represent to you their feelings of what you represent to them. Hope and a way out of despair, a light out of darkness. So as you begin to grow and evolve and study, know that a spotlight is now on you. Not just on 4137, but a spotlight is on you wherever you go. And you are to now begin to become the magnets. And with your charisma and your magnetism, fill this little house, burst out of the walls, and begin to set up throughout the city of Los Angeles that which is necessary that will put our people back on the straight path. So I'm really proud of myself. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. And I thought that I would, and I, at least almost 3 times, it's almost happened, but there I was saying that you should leave well enough alone. So I'm going to leave well enough alone. I pray Allah, if it is His will, that as I work with the minister on the national level, that somewhere in Allah's grace, He will find it necessary for me to at least come back and forth to Los Angeles. But these are divine matters, and we leave them to Allah. But I certainly enjoyed my stay, and it was a very warm and wonderful stay, and we have made history. No longer a footnote or a margin in history, but you make up the main composition. And now it's on from Los Angeles to Miami and on from there to New York City, called by some affectionately Jaime Town. The minister wants every one of us to be in New York City. The Jews have vowed what they will do in New York City. We want to be there. They vowed what they would do here. But 19,000 black people is just too much to face. It ain't that much Jew in the world. So New York City will probably be 20, 25, 30,000. That's just too much black to face. But there might be some Jews that crazy. So we want to be on hand to make sure that nothing happens to the minister. The minister has been shaped and molded and prepared and fashioned for this time. And he has become the man who holds the key to our salvation and our liberation. We must make sure that nothing happens to him, that no power, no force, no combination of powers and forces is able to bring about any harm against him. So we all must be in New York City on the birthday of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So be it Allah's will, I'll see you in New York City, October 7. Asalaam alaikum. I got some news for you that I just heard that I will share with you in just a couple of minutes. Can you see this from where you are? This is a drawing. It's like a jet, Minister Farrakhan. Can you see it? That's the USA. I had a sister draw this about 2 months ago, something that was in my mind. And then if the study of Islam, in a simple sentence, is the study of yourself, in a simple sentence, the study of who? Then if the study of Islam is the study of yourself, if Islam is the nature of black men and black women, if it is mathematical by its very nature, then the study of yourself is the study of the mother of sciences, mathematics, correct? Then in studying yourself, you're studying the source of everything, correct? Then as you master that which is the source of everything, what then are you getting into? The mastery of everything outside of self. So what I'm implying here, that there's a profound interrelationship between the mastery of language and the mastery of mathematics, starting with just numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and the mastery of life. Would not you rather live the rest of your life in total control of it? And the more and more you control your own life, then the more and more you'll be able to conduct your life in a way that doesn't unjustly bump into the lives of others. Wouldn't you like to live the rest of your life like that? Huh? Well, what we are dealing with, this kind of wisdom that we've just touched the surface of tonight, and that you saw some of the depth of through our brother this past Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You need to get that Sunday tape and go back over that one again. Then, my beloved brothers and sisters, you're studying the mastery of yourself. There's no, see, this is one of the things what makes the white man such a liar, so easy to dismiss him. The teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is given to black people that we may master ourselves. Nobody can run a game on you and at the same time help you to master yourself. One excludes the other. You follow that? Please don't go to sleep on me. I know you're tired. But didn't I tell you months ago to ease into this like a 747 lands? I hope that you came out of this not quite as beat as you usually are through these big events, hopefully by some of the suggestions that I made. Two brothers, Brother Wally and Brother Troy, I understand, had minor accidents just due to being tired. Please now, some of the worst decisions that you and I make, we make when we're tired. Some of the biggest trouble I've ever gotten in my life, I've gotten into when I made decisions late at night when I was very beat. Okay? Now, brothers and sisters, remember, I'm not going to ask any of you who are here tonight for your first time, if you're here tonight for your first time and you think that just from what you've heard tonight, what you heard Minister Farrakhan say over the weekend is true, good for you and for black people, and you want
you say, well, I decided I want to become a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, then you can just see the secretary. Where are they? Where are they? I mean, which way did they go? Back here or back here? Back where? When you can just go upstairs at the end of the meeting, if you want to do that. See the secretary, and the brothers and sisters will tell you the steps necessary to, in a formal sense, get into what your own is. But remember, Islam is ours. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. Like it's your right at birth to breathe. You follow me? That's your birthright. You keep doing that until you go for the last time. And when you can't do, then it's for the last time, and it's over. You follow me? So as long as you can keep doing that, and this thing keeps beating, and this thing keeps working, then make good use of your existence. Don't worry about coming back again. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Okay? That's another subject, but don't worry about that. You're alive right now. There is no one who has died and come back who guarantees that the rest of us will come back. Those who make that guarantee are alive, right? So don't even worry about that. Now, brothers and sisters, I've really enjoyed being of a small part in this whole effort. I can't be given the credit. I could not correct my brother. I didn't know he was going to call my name out. I had no idea of what he was going to say Saturday night. But I can't be given hardly any credit for what was done. I said, what I wanted us to do is go for broke. And there were several considerations, and we can deal with that on another occasion, but I don't mind now that it's over, opening my mind up to show you just exactly how I arrived at that. I don't mind going into that, and I'll gladly do it next time I see you. Now I'm hope to be back Friday, but I can't promise it. But by the help of Allah, I'll definitely be back Saturday. I want to get into some specifics. I want to help you become the knowledge brokers in this city. Do you dig that? Would you like to become, do you think that you should become the knowledge brokers in this city? Now, we're not the smartest and the best people in this city. We're just average brothers and sisters trying to make it. You just heard a few words of truth ahead of some other brother and sister. There's some extraordinary black folks in this town. See? And I would like to help you with some very concrete suggestions that are not theory. We've already done it in one city and it works. Okay? And I would like to share those specifics with you. And then on another occasion, we just take a whole day seminar. And I'll get some of those in Phoenix, Arizona. I can't get everybody. Some to come over. They may not be the best, but they'll be whoever can afford to come over to get into the nuts and bolts of some specifics. When that circle of brothers and sisters, when the sisters were still wearing dungarees and sneakers, most of them, a lot of them, when the brothers and sisters were still getting high, and I would talk to them and act like I didn't see it. Back in 1979, when the circle was just a baby circle, we put on a program wherein we joined black brothers and sisters, the so-called average brother and sister, with those of our people that have developed certain skills. And we brought them together in what was called a resource festival that lasted 2 days. It was the most successful event black people have ever put on in that little dusty city. I want you to learn from what we did and stand on our shoulders and improve on it. You hear what I'm saying? Just like last night, Dr. Alaikuum shared with us in a room the things that they learned, the mistakes or whatever, in Washington, D.C. And as I said to Brother Allah this morning in New York City, talking with him on the phone, I said, brother, after this event, I want to send out memos to some of you around the country so that you may know what we got out of this whole event, that we can share back and forth, that you know what considerations, what things we learned, what things we've accomplished, what things we saw, and that maybe you got points that you can immediately share with us, and then I will share them with the believers or have someone share them with all, so we can squeeze all the juice out of this. But now remember, we don't want this to be a great affair and then it becomes just history. I expect you to work with me 100% in locking into all our folks in this town in a mutually beneficial manner. You with me to do that? Which means then that whether it be Friday or Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to see you, correct? Huh? Huh? You're not going to stay home and sleep. What time does the fight come on? Huh? The fight's coming on later on this week? You don't have a meeting Saturday night, do you? Huh? So you brothers don't have to worry about missing the fight, right? Thank you. Thank you. Now, brothers, I expect you, some 10 brothers are going to meet tomorrow with Brother Torrance. He came up with a rather simple marketing strategy by which you all can make some money, individual believers with our products, and also make the circle some money. And so I said, Brother Wally and I agreed, was this rather casual, go ahead and do it. So he's going to meet with the 10 brothers tomorrow morning, and I think Brother Malik and Brother Halim will be there, and they'll get on down. What I said to do is go ahead and do it first. Do it. Make it real. Then bring it to the body as a whole. It will involve some of you sisters. You can make you some money, some absolute legitimate money. Not that you're not making legitimate money now, but you could use some more money, couldn't you, sisters? I mean, if you could be at home and work for, say, 3 hours and make $500 a month or a week even, you'd go for that? Now, what I want you to do, brothers, is make it real as quick as you can. Just make it happen. Just do it. Okay? Just go ahead and do it. And do it quick. Make it successful fast. And after you show some success, then bring it before the circle, because you would have worked out some of the kinks. Then everybody jump into it who has the time. Now remember, this town is hot right now, isn't it? Hot. There's no reason at all why we shouldn't take advantage of it by selling the tapes like you're selling water to a man on the desert. Not selling, man. That's not a good example, is it? Would you just think up some good example? Surprise, I'm a little tired too, and that sure was a tired example. But please think up something. You see the point I'm trying to make. Let's sell these tapes. People need to know what he said, and also I recommend it strongly, and maybe one of you can tell me just quickly. I wanted Brother Akbar introducing Brother Allah, and then some excerpts from Brother Aleem, and then the minister. Was that done? Can anybody tell me quickly if that was done? Huh? It was not done? Then we can't sell those tapes. Brother Sabir didn't do it? But Brother Sabir told me last night he was going to do it. Told about several of us last night he was going to do it. So now we know. The truth has come out. Now the question is, when is it going to be done? When? By what time tomorrow? By what time? By 12 o'clock? By 12 noon. All of you heard him say that? Word is bond and bond is what? You ready to give that up, brother? Or give up some sandwiches? Look, please, let's have this tape done. The reason I want what Brother Allah said on it is this. If you notice on these call-in programs, our people call. They have the right spirit. They know the minister is right, but they don't have enough facts to argue with. So they do the best they can. That's why I wanted what Brother Allah said, that shows some concrete facts as part of that tape. So now, please, let's get those tapes in the hands of our brothers and sisters quickly. And whatever the problems are in getting those tapes out, can you just tell me, does anybody know, Brother Wally, when will the duplicating machines be ready? Huh? I want everybody to hear this. In other words, I deliberately want to put you on the spot. So that it'll be ready tomorrow. What time?
2 days.
From when?
From the day.
That means Friday. I'm sorry if I embarrassed anybody. Sorry about that. But I think we need to be stung if we don't take advantage of this fantastic opportunity. Now, did anybody, last point that I want to make, did anybody tape any of these talk shows? I stayed up as long as I could last night trying to get Ray Bream until I fell off to sleep. Has anybody taped Michael Jackson? Well, look, if you can, you call in on all these programs to keep the stuff going. Every talk program there is, call in, call in, call in. If it's no more than say, I think Mr. Farrakhan is one of the most brilliant black men I've ever seen in my life. Click. Get your point over. Get your stuff in. Make the point. Say, we notice that the Jews never called Minister Farrakhan a liar. Click. Seems to me that the Jews are preaching hate. Click. If hate is so bad, why are they speaking in such hateful manner? Click. You know, get your point in. Let's keep this stuff going. You willing to do that? Let's get ourselves in a position where we can hook on to our people. Now, I will talk to you more specifically about your skills and your interests and how to utilize your skills and interests in such a manner so that you can improve the lot of our people. Like if you got some genius, some smart black folks in this town that you can't say you can't put them to work. We're not set up that way to do that. People want to do something, they want to help, but you have to guide them. I saw one of the most brilliant brothers in this town. I really can't mention his name. He's an undercover believer in the minister. Very much undercover, deep cover. And you see this brother very often. But he's deep, under the cover. Begging the minister, tell me what I can do to help. Give me my orders. There's a lot of people like that. They just, many cases, just don't know what to do. Well, if you run across rich brothers and sisters, that's very simple. Say, brother, I'll tell you where to make the check out to. And if you can't make a check, I say, well, brother, if you don't want your name identified, that's easy. You go bust the check, make it out to cash and bust it. I'll take the raw cash. Look, if I have money right now, it's to spare, I'd make this place brighter in here. This looks dark to me. Wouldn't you? Have you ever seen that? I mean, this takes money. Now, this is pretty bright lights. And incidentally, the light bill is big here. But I think it should be lighter, don't you? How about if we had some money to run big ads in various newspapers advertising where people can buy the tape? Brother Wally told me he has a deal with a couple of newspapers where they'll give half-page ads up. That'll take some money, won't it? Don't you think we have to spend some more money? We have to put on the most massive campaign we have ever put on to push tape since we've been Muslims. That's what I want to put in your mind. So thank you very much, sisters and brothers, for your patience with me tonight. I hope you got something out of that video. I'm telling you, as sure as you are here, there are black men, these planes. There's more that can be said about that. The big plane is a half mile by a half mile. As I did about a month ago when I was talking with you, I told you that if you took that plane, take a half mile and set it up on its edge, and you consider the skyline of Chicago or New York City, it would be more than twice the height of the tallest building, whether the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower. It'd be roughly 270 stories high. If you take that plane and put it on its edge, it does exist, it's very real, and it is the physical reality of Ezekiel's vision of a wheel, the wheel. It was built for the purpose of destroying this present world. It is true that one day the world will be set on fire. That is absolutely true. That plane is the big instrument that will be utilized one day. See, there's a spiritual exodus we're going through now. At a certain point down the road, after we get into some rulership right here before this thing goes, one day there'll be a physical exodus. But let's go and make this mental one first. Let's go ahead and do that. Let us get free of the white man's thinking. Get free of his thinking. Serve ourselves. And you cannot serve yourself just me. You cannot serve yourself because you don't live your life free from others. You and I live our lives in an interdependent and an interrelatedness with one another, and you cannot be happy just by yourself. Okay? Remember that. So I'm going to turn the meeting into the hands of Brother Gregory, who has a couple of announcements that you won't take long to make, right? The very brief announcements, just two of them, and that'll be it for tonight. You raised a little over $1,000. I don't think that's going to pay that bill, but I'm not going to go no further with that. Maybe you can go and give the $1,000 to the people tomorrow and promise the other $1,000 Saturday when you raise the other $500 up this coming Friday. Okay? Thank you very much. May Allah bless you. I hope when we have this meeting, we get down to that business that you're there. Remember, what I want to get down with you to show you very plainly how you can improve your status as knowledge brokers. That's invaluable information. When I come, you should be out in full force. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.